It is 2 in the morning. You are lying in bed, staring at the dark ceiling. Your jaw feels like it is glowing red hot. A relentless throbbing pulse echoes in your skull. You have a toothache. It is the kind of pain that makes you question your life choices. But you know there is an easy way out. You can just call your dentist in the morning, you will get a shot of Novocaine, you will feel nothing but pressure. And by noon, the nightmare will be completely over. But now, I want you to imagine something much worse. Subtract the Novocaine, subtract the sterile clinic, subtract the dentist entirely. Now, rewind the clock 14,000 years. You are standing on a smoky fire in a damp cave. Outside, a brutal ice age wind is howling, and that exact same throbbing pain is echoing in your skull. How did ancient humans survive toothaches before dentists? Think about that for a second. A bad tooth is not just an inconvenience. If left untreated, an infected tooth can easily kill you. The bacteria can spread directly to your brain or heart. Our ancient ancestors were tough, sure. They fought off saber-toothed cats and survived freezing winters. But a microscopic bacterial infection in the jaw, that is an entirely different kind of monster. For a long time, we assumed ancient humans just suffered in silence. We thought they simply waited for the tooth to rot and fall out. Or worse, they died from the infection. But modern archaeology has uncovered a hidden truth. A truth that is both horrifying and deeply inspiring. Our ancestors were not helpless victims of dental decay. They were pioneers of extreme, do-it-yourself surgery, and they were performing complex dental work much earlier than we ever imagined. Let us travel to northern Italy, specifically a rocky shelter in the Dolomite Mountains called Riparo Villabruna. The year is roughly 12,000 BC. Here, archaeologists found the remains of a young man. He is known to science as Villabruna I. For decades, his skeleton sat quietly in a museum. But in 2015, paleoanthropologist Stefano Benazzi decided to take a closer look. Dr. Benazzi placed the ancient skull under an electron microscope. He focused on a heavily infected lower molar. What he saw completely rewrote the history of medicine. The tooth had a massive, gaping hole in it. But this hole was not naturally caused by bacteria. The inside of the cavity was covered in microscopic scratch marks. These scratches were deliberate, they were methodical, and they were made by a tiny razor-sharp piece of flint. 14,000 years ago, someone realized this man was dying of an infection. So, a prehistoric healer grabbed a sharpened stone, they pinned the young man down, and they manually scraped the rotting, infected tissue completely out of his tooth, with no anesthesia, with no sterilization. Just raw stones scraping against raw nerve. Take a moment to let that sink in. The sheer willpower required to endure that procedure is unimaginable. But the most shocking part, it actually worked. Bone healing patterns showed that Villabruna I survived this brutal surgery. The infection was halted. He lived for years after his prehistoric root canal. This makes him the oldest known dental patient in human history. But scraping out a cavity leaves a vulnerable hole behind. Food and bacteria can easily get trapped inside all over again. Ancient humans eventually realized they needed to plug the gap. They needed the world's first dental fillings. To find them, we have to move forward in time. We travel to a cave near the village of Lonce in modern-day Slovenia. The timeline is now 6,500 years ago. Here, researchers made another terrifyingly brilliant discovery. An international team led by Federico Bernardini examined a Neolithic jawbone. One of the canine teeth had a deep, painful vertical crack. The dentin was completely exposed. Every time this person drank cold water, it must have been pure agony. But the crack was not empty. It was perfectly sealed with a strange, dark substance. Using infrared spectroscopy, the scientists analyzed the material. It was pure beeswax. Someone had carefully heated beeswax and packed it into the cracked tooth. Beeswax was a brilliant choice. It melts at a low temperature. It hardens perfectly at body temperature. And it contains propolis, a natural antibacterial compound made by bees. This ancient dentist did not just fix the pain, they actively prevented secondary infections. All this happened thousands of years before the first written language was even invented. But what about the pain itself? Surgery and fillings are great, but they hurt. Did ancient humans just grit their teeth and scream? Not necessarily. Our ancestors were master botanists. They understood the chemical properties of their environment better than we do. And they had their own prehistoric pharmacies. To prove this, we look at our extinct cousins, the Neanderthals. Let's visit El Cedrón Cave in northern Spain. This site is roughly 50,000 years old. Archaeologists found a group of Neanderthals who died here. One of them, a young male, had a terrible dental abscess. His jaw was visibly deformed from the massive infection. He must have been in constant, blinding pain. In 2017, a researcher named Karen Hardy analyzed the dental plaque on his teeth. Dental plaque is basically a microscopic time capsule. It traps exactly what you were eating and chewing. Dr. Hardy found DNA from a very specific tree in this Neanderthal's plaque. It was the poplar tree. Why is that important? Because poplar bark contains high amounts of salicylic acid. Salicylic acid is the active, pain-killing ingredient in modern aspirin. This Neanderthal was actively chewing on tree bark to self-medicate his toothache. But the discoveries in his plaque did not stop there. Researchers also found traces of a specific microscopic mold. The mold was penicillium. Yes, the exact same mold that produces penicillin, the world's most famous antibiotic. Was this an accident? Or did a 50,000-year-old Neanderthal deliberately eat moldy plants to cure his bacterial infection? We cannot know for sure, but it shows a level of survival intelligence that completely shatters the dumb caveman stereotype. They knew what worked, and they used it. However, there is a massive evolutionary twist to this whole story. For the vast majority of human history, dental decay was actually quite rare. Hunter-gatherers had surprisingly straight, healthy teeth. Their jaws were wider, meaning wisdom teeth fit perfectly. Their diet was tough, fibrous, and completely free of refined sugar. So, if they rarely got cavities, why do we suffer from them so much today? The answer lies in the biggest mistake humanity ever made: the invention of farming. Around 10,000 years ago, we stopped hunting and started planting. We domesticated wheat, barley, and rice. Our diet suddenly became incredibly rich in soft carbohydrates, and carbohydrates break down into simple sugars in the mouth. This created an absolute paradise for one specific bacterium, Streptococcus mutans. This is the main bacteria responsible for rotting your teeth. Dr. Alan Cooper, a paleomicrobiologist, studied ancient human dental records. He tracked how the bacteria in our mouths changed over time. His research revealed a massive, sudden shift in our oral microbiome. The moment humans started farming, Streptococcus mutans exploded in population. Our ancestors traded a tough, healthy diet for soft, sugary grain, and in doing so, they doomed us to thousands of years of dental misery. Farming gave us cities, writing, and eventually the internet. But the price we paid was our teeth. As civilizations grew, the toothache problem spiraled out of control. People no longer had the knowledge of the ancient hunter-gatherers. They forgot about the poplar bark and the beeswax. Instead, they developed wild, terrifying superstitions. For thousands of years, people across the globe believed in the tooth worm. Ancient Sumerian texts describe a literal demonic worm that drills into teeth. They believed this worm drank the blood of the gums. And this myth persisted all the way through the Middle Ages, because when people looked into a rotting cavity, the exposed nerve looked exactly like a tiny worm. To kill the worm, ancient doctors tried everything. They packed cavities with poisonous herbs. They burned the teeth with hot iron wires. In ancient Egypt, the very first named dentist in history appears. His name was Hezirah, who lived around 2600 BC. His official title translates to Chief of Dentists and Physicians. But even Hezirah had limits to what he could do. If a tooth was too far gone, it simply had to come out. Extraction became the dominant form of dentistry for centuries. Blacksmiths and barbers became the new dentists. They used crude iron forceps to violently yank teeth from the jaw. Many patients bled to death. Many more died from the resulting shock or infection. George Washington famously suffered from terrible dental issues. His dentures were not made of wood, as the myth suggests. They were made of lead, brass, and real human teeth purchased from poor workers. It wasn't until the mid-1800s that modern dentistry truly began. The discovery of ether and nitrous oxide finally eliminated the agony of the procedure. For the first time in human history, you could fix a tooth without screaming. We are incredibly lucky to live in the era of modern medicine. We take our sterile tools and local anesthetics for granted, but every time you sit in that dental chair, remember the legacy you belong to. Remember Villabruna I in his Italian cave. enduring a flint blade scraping against his exposed nerve. Remember the Neolithic man in Slovenia, pressing warm beeswax into his broken smile. Remember the Neanderthal in Spain, chewing bitter bark just to survive the night. They did not have Novocaine. They did not have high-speed drills. They just had raw determination and an incredible will to live. They fought a microscopic war in the dark, and they survived. So the next time you hear that high-pitched drill spinning up, and you feel that slight pinch of the needle in your gums, do not be afraid. Smile. Because your ancestors would have traded their very souls to be sitting exactly where you are. They survived the flint. You can definitely survive the drill. Dental pain is the great equalizer of human history. It connects the mightiest pharaoh to the poorest peasant. It connects you to a Neanderthal huddled in a cave 50,000 years ago. We all share the same vulnerable biology. We all share the same capacity for suffering. But we also share the same incredible genius for solving our problems, from sharp stones to beeswax to modern composite resins. The story of dentistry is really the story of human innovation. It is a testament to our refusal to simply lie down and accept pain. We fight back, we invent, we adapt, even if it takes us 14,000 years to perfect the technique. Consider the microscopic bacteria in your mouth right now. There are billions of them, forming complex colonies on your teeth. They are constantly trying to break down your enamel. It is an invisible siege happening 24 hours a day. And the only thing standing between them and your jawbone is a thin layer of fluoride from your toothpaste. Our ancestors didn't have fluoride. They had abrasive diets that naturally scoured their teeth clean. They chewed on tough roots, raw meat, and fibrous vegetables. Their jaws worked so hard that their teeth actually wore down flat over time. But because their diet lacked refined sugar, the acid-producing bacteria starved. Evolution designed our mouths for a world that no longer exists. We are living in an agricultural, sugar-soaked reality. But we are still carrying the ancient biology of hunter-gatherers. That mismatch is why we suffer. That mismatch is why the dental industry is worth billions today. Every cavity is a microscopic reminder of our transition to farming. Every filling is a monument to the agricultural revolution. We built modern society on a foundation of wheat and sugar, and our teeth are the permanent casualties of that progress. It makes you view your toothbrush a little differently, doesn't it? It is not just a plastic stick. It is a daily defensive weapon in an evolutionary war. A war that began when we first started baking bread. So, let's look back at the original question. How did ancient humans survive toothaches before dentists? They survived through sheer, unflinching endurance. They survived by paying attention to the healing properties of the natural world. They turned trees into pharmacies and bees into medical suppliers. And when all else failed, they relied on each other. Think about the trust required for the Villabruna surgery. To let another human being dig into your infected tooth with a sharp rock, that requires an immense social bond. It requires empathy. The ancient dentist was not getting paid. They were trying to save a member of their tribe. Because in the brutal reality of the Ice Age, you needed every person you could get. A lost hunter meant less food for the group. So they took care of their own. They innovated out of love, necessity, and sheer desperation. We often look at the past with a sense of superiority. We assume ancient people were ignorant or simplistic. But the evidence tells a vastly different story. It shows a deeply sophisticated understanding of the human body. It shows a willingness to experiment and push the boundaries of early medicine. The beeswax filling in Slovenia is a perfect example of applied materials science. The Neanderthal using penicillium mold is a precursor to modern pharmacology. They laid the groundwork for everything we know today. They took the first agonizing steps so we wouldn't have to. The history of human survival is carved directly into our bones, or in this case, our teeth. Every cracked molar and scratched cavity is a story of resilience. When scientists examine these ancient skulls, they aren't just looking at calcium, they are looking at the fossilized echoes of human pain, and more importantly, the fossilized echoes of human healing. It shifts your perspective on what it means to be tough. Modern toughness is running a marathon or lifting heavy weights. Prehistoric toughness was enduring a root canal with a piece of flint. There is simply no comparison. So, let us raise a glass to the ancient survivors. to the Neanderthals chewing bitter bark in the cold, to the Neolithic farmers packing beeswax into shattered teeth, to the bold healers who first picked up a stone blade and said, "I can fix this." They are the unsung heroes of medical history. Without their brutal trial and error, we would have learned nothing. Their suffering paved the way for our comfort. Their desperation created our modern baseline of care. And they did it all without a single textbook or medical degree. They just had the human brain and the world around them. That is the ultimate testament to the ingenuity of our species. We are problem solvers at our very core. When the body fails, the mind steps in to bridge the gap. It is a beautiful, brutal, and inspiring legacy. So next time you wake up at 2 a.m. with a throbbing jaw, before you panic, take a deep breath. Acknowledge the deep, ancestral history of the pain you are feeling. You are participating in an ancient human tradition. But unlike Villabruna 1, your story has a much happier ending. You don't need to find a sharp piece of flint. You don't need to chew on moldy bark. You just need to pick up your phone and thank the universe that you live in the 21st century. Because modern dentistry, with all its scary sounds and weird smells, is an absolute miracle. It is the culmination of 4,000 years of trial and error. Every smooth, painless filling is a triumph over our biology. Every extracted wisdom tooth is a victory over our evolutionary baggage. We have conquered the toothworm. We have tamed the Streptococcus mutans. Well, mostly. You still need to floss. Seriously, you need to floss. Because the bacteria never sleep. They are waiting for you to get lazy. They are waiting to reclaim the territory they lost to modern medicine. Don't give them the satisfaction. Brush your teeth, respect your dentist, and honor your ancestors. They went through absolute hell, so you wouldn't have to. The least you can do is take 2 minutes every night to protect their legacy. Because a healthy smile is not just about aesthetics. It is a symbol of our species' victory over the raw cruelty of nature. It is proof that human intelligence can overcome our biological flaws. And that is a story worth remembering. A story of pain, beeswax, and flint. A story of survival against the microscopic odds. From the dark caves of the Ice Age to the brightly lit clinics of today. The journey of the human tooth is the journey of humanity itself. Fragile, flawed, but ultimately resilient. We break, but we learn how to put ourselves back together. And we keep moving forward, one bite at a time. Think about that tonight, before you go to sleep. Run your tongue over your teeth. Feel the smooth enamel. Appreciate the absolute lack of agonizing pain. That absence of pain is the greatest luxury in human history. It is an invisible crown we all wear. A crown paid for by the suffering of thousands of generations before us. So wear it well, keep it clean, and never ever take a painless morning for granted. Because history has shown us exactly how bad it can get. And none of us want to go back to the age of the flint blade. We have come too far to lose to the toothworm now. We are the apex predators of this planet. We should not be defeated by sugar and bacteria. Stand tall, brush well, and survive. Just like they did, only this time with mint-flavored toothpaste. And a whole lot less screaming. This has been a Stickman story. Thanks for watching. Keep your teeth sharp and your mind sharper. See you in the next one.